In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the great nemesis of American bakers, a food scale. Don't fear the food scale. Hi, I'm Patty and welcome to my handmade lifestyle. I go by Patty Mac Makes everywhere online. On this channel, we do all sorts of makes, bakes, and a little bit of gardening. We're all about living that crazy analog life in this mixed up, wacky digital world. And if you are too, then I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and hang out with us. It's fun, and you'll learn a lot of cool stuff. Okay, let's get into today's video. If there's one thing that I can share with you that will vastly improve your baking, if you're baking from scratch, is to get rid of the cups, ditch the cups, walk away from the cups, leave the cups behind. I know your grandma did it. I know your mom does it. Whatever. It's not the best practice for baking, for good baking. So why is that? It's because dry ingredients are really hard to measure. They're super hard to measure. And how you put the flour into the cup matters, how you level it off matters. There's so much that can go wrong when you're measuring using cups. Whereas if you use a scale, 100 grams is 100 grams is 100 grams. It doesn't matter. You're just going to get that weight and move on with your life. It's very easy. I'm going to show you how to do it. And I'm also going to share with you that it's very easy to convert recipes. So I convert all of my recipes. If it doesn't already come in grams, you better believe I'm going to be on the food converter, and I'll link to that below. That I like to use. And I'm talking, I'll go into the old Betty Crocker cookbooks, all of that stuff. I'm not doing cups anymore. It's just, there are too many ways for it to go wrong. So, all right, let's take a look at how to use this beauty. And let me also say, these are super easy to come by. This is not a hard thing to find. I got this at Bed Bath & Beyond. It was like, I don't know, 22 bucks or something. I used my 20% off coupon. We all get those. Use your coupon. It's under $20. It will change your baking for the better. I promise you. And the things that we're going to measure out, we're going to use in the next video. That's going to be a cupcake video from one of my favorite YouTube bakers, Cupcake Gemma. I love her. She's British. It's all in grams. So I don't know if you're like into the whole Great British Bake Off craze. I'm super into it, and honestly, that's what got me to finally pull the trigger and switch to the scale, because I just said, they're all doing it. I want to make what they're making. I'm just going to try it out, and what a difference. Okay, let's take a look at what to do. I think you're going to like this. Here's a closer view of the food scale. And this one is like super basic. It only has 2 units. And you can see here we have a power button, and it says tare, T-A-R-E, and over here is our units. So I turn it on. And it's on grams. G is grams. I change the units, and you can see here it'll give me pounds and ounces. But we're going to go with grams because that is much more exacting. So what you're going to do is put the vessel that you're going to measure into, which I'm just going to use this little bowl, and see how it's registering weight. And you're like, oh, but that's going to be math. We're going to have to, do some addition and subtraction to get it right for the measurements. No, we're not. We're going to click this little button that says tare. Boom. It zeroes out whatever the weight of your bowl is. So what we're looking for in this particular recipe is 125 grams of flour. And this is how we're going to do it. I'm just going to spoon it in there. This is it. Oh, and look, I'm 1 gram over. So take out, and this scale takes a second or two to register. Oh, see, now we're at 125 grams. So that, just that little bit of flour, I was 1 gram off. And if you're like, come on, can that really make a difference? Yeah, it can. Believe it or not, especially if you're doing something like, say, macaroons, which are really exacting. You've got to have that right on the money, or you're not going to have a good result. So there's our flour all measured out. Let's look at sugar. Put our bowl back to 0 because we had already done that tare. Okay, now we just need 125 grams of sugar. I'm using the actual caster sugar, which is a British ingredient. If you watch Bake Off, they always talk about caster sugar, and Cupcake Gemma uses it. It gives a better result in a cake. So this is going to eventually wind up in cupcakes. So guess what? We're going to use the caster sugar. And look how easy this is to measure. Just going to pour it in the bowl. And boom, it's right there. So if I had gone over, oh, it's over a little, because I told you this particular scale takes just a second or two to finish registering. So look, I'm just going to scoop out that little bit. Let's see what we get. There we go, 125. So what I want you to see is that little bit is too much. And when you realize that a gram or two can make or break your recipe, and honestly, it does make or break your recipe, because it's a big science experiment. Okay, that's what baking is. It's the way the ingredients interact with each other scientifically. That little bit can throw off your whole thing, and you can see where, if you're just dipping or spooning into cups, how it would be so easy to get that measurement off. Okay, let's do one more. And now we're just going to tare a button. That'll take it down to 0. This is the butter. This recipe calls for 125 grams of butter, and that's basically going to wind up being a stick and a little bit more. So we're going to do that. So we have 107. Now I'm going to use this fancy Trader Joe's butter. And let me just give you a tip. Somebody in my Great British Bake Off baking group gave me a tip. And she said that this cultured butter with the Trader Joe, well, they call it Trader Jock, but it's Trader Joe brand butter. This is real French butter. And you would pay quite a bit more money for this if you bought the name brand. So it's like getting generic butter, basically. But I mean, you could see if we were trying to get to 125, and we have this big block, and this block weighs in at 250 grams. Okay, so we need just a little bit more to get to 125. So I'm just going to take that same spoon, and I'm going to take a little bit off. Let that come back down. And there's 125. Just that little bit of butter just put us over the edge. So you can imagine if you're trying to stick this into cups, how hard is that going to be? And 125 cups or 125 grams, it doesn't really equate to a half a cup, because a half a cup is a stick, isn't it? Half a cup, quarter cup. Yeah, oh God, I get confused. See what I mean? The fractions, they mess me up. Anyway, 125 grams. So here we go. Here is the foundation for the cupcakes that we're going to make. And when you get to stuff like teaspoons and tablespoons or whatever, you're just going to carefully measure those. Don't pack it in, but you'll just measure those as written. Just use your small spoons, but don't use the cheapo, like the decorative spoons like you can buy at Home Goods or something. They're not necessarily calibrated correctly, so it matters what you're using to measure as well. And I know this is like super picky, all that, yada yada. Yes, it is. That's what baking is. Baking is precision. It's not just throwing some stuff in a pan and it's done. That's just not how it works. I'm so sorry to tell you. But if you want to have a good bake, you want to have good results, this is how you do it. So I hope that demystifies how to use the scale. I think it's super easy. I mean, I was like, when I started using it, I was like, this is easy. Why was I afraid to try this all this time? Okay, that's how to use it. So be honest, that wasn't that bad, right? I mean, not really so hard. In fact, I think it's way easier than fractions. Oh my gosh, my head swims in fractions. You know, I know that's 4th grade math, but I can't add fractions. It escapes me. But I can add 100 plus 100. And by the same token, if I want to reduce something, I can divide 100 by 2 really simply, 50. So easy. So it's very easy for me to size up or size down using the grams method of measurement rather than fractions, which is what you have with cups. It's crazy. So give it a try. Don't fear the gram. The gram is not out to get you. The gram is a wonderful thing. The baking gram, I think, is way easier to deal with than the Instagram. So that's my thought on it anyway. All right, thanks for watching. And if you have questions, comments, whatever, drop them below. Remember to be polite. This is a family channel. Okay, I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.